There are just some days when I'm in class and I just don't know where to turn. I've got to adapt to Max, who has ADHD and a mix of dyslexia and dysgraphia, to Clody, who has serious organization issues, to Amelie, whose personal life is difficult, to Gus, who is trying to learn despite a mental illness, to Fred, who has motor challenges, to Emily, who does nothing like the others, to Raphael, with his perfectionism, and last but not least, Xavier, who finishes everything in 15 minutes and then spends the rest of the time disturbing the others. At the heart of this is the reality that none of my students has the same needs as any other, and not one learns like another. In this context, I find myself asking myself some questions. Is it normal that I feel overwhelmed? Do I sometimes feel like I spend my whole year running my class in emergency mode? Could I please have 30% more time? Would you happen to have a satellite image of everything that is going on? It seems to me that I need to get a big picture to be able to find out how to deal with all of the flexibility I need to add to my teaching practice.
And what if you had a UDL?
What is UDL?
The Universal Design for Learning is an innovative teaching approach whose underpinnings allow for inclusive planning by providing for the individual needs of students and integrating them into comprehensive vision to avoid multiple adjustments.
I'm not sure I've understood.
Imagine a captain preparing for a river cruise. He knows that there will be a lot of navigational elements to consider before setting off. However, as soon as the passengers board the ship, there are many other demands. One seems anxious and wants to know where her cabin is, what the meal times are. Another traveler is trembling and states that he can't swim. A senior citizen is complaining about the wind and the cold. One young woman arrives with so much luggage that she can't board without help. Finally, just as the ship leaves port, one passenger is overcome with a violent case of seasickness. From one thing to another, the ship sails on and the captain does not have 1 minute to spare. When the ship finally arrives, the captain is exhausted and left with the impression that he didn't do a very good job at all.
This is exactly how I feel after I've tried to differentiate and meet the multiple needs of my students.
So the captain decides to try a different way of doing things by applying the UDL. Let's go back to when the captain was planning the trip and try applying the UDL. Let's say the captain posted a photo of the layout of the ship, including the location of the washrooms. He would also post a maritime map with the itinerary of the trip and attractions to see along the way. He would also make the menu and dining hours available. In addition, as passengers boarded, they would each be presented with a trip kit that would allow and include a life vest, a plan of the ship, the itinerary, a woolen blanket, and seasickness medicine. Taking all of this into consideration, we would be led to believe that it would be smoother sailing for both the captain and the passengers who could use the trip kit as needed. For example, a quiet, discreet passenger who might never have asked for anything would be pleased to follow the itinerary on the map. Fundamentally, the UDL allows for measures of flexibility that answer the needs of one particular student, but can also be positive for other students and even the entire group.
So, if I understand the analogy correctly, the norm is not to adjust plans in a linear fashion by simply adding measures for each individual, but rather a multitude of measures are planned for from the outset.
Exactly. We are talking about inclusion rather than integration. This is the UDL concept of universality and equality. Recent research in neuroscience has determined that the variability of the human brain is so great that it is no longer possible to consider that there is a learner type. This diversity is reflected in how information is received, in the cognitive skills and processes used, in the reactions to different situations and contexts, and according to the student's developmental phases.
So the norm becomes a variety of ways to learn.
Yes, and this norm requires accessibility to and flexibility in the use of technology, as well as a combination of pedagogical techniques. By removing obstacles and roadblocks from the very beginning, the UDL reduces the stigma associated with some students. For example, the accompanying costs of having them in class. It also enables greater learner autonomy and greater overall success.
So, if I decide to get on board, how can I go about planning a universal design for learning?
Let's make a little stop and assimilate the basic concept, and then we can meet up again later for the rest of the journey.